Can you co-create with AI without losing the human signal that you bring to the table? Can you make something with artificial intelligence and not lose the really cool features along the way? Your details, your specifics, what makes you unique. Is it being enhanced? Is it being flattened? Armin Show, episode number 451. Your host, Armin Shervanian here. We are in the 450s. Can you make content with artificial intelligence that still has the spark? How much do you use it such that you keep the spark that you have and don't lose it, but get value out of it? I have written many times and worked with AI in some regard where in some cases ideas, great, wonderful ideas, you could do this with this, is telling you how to go about what you're doing. And then at other times, if you let it and you say, package this in some way, it'll flatten your material such that what makes you different, stand out, whatever that might be, is not happening. That's out. It got removed in some way. So we don't want that. So does it make you more or does it make you less? Is the issue here. Artificial intelligence can boost your output, but connection is something that you bring to your content. Now, I have quite a bit of items to share on this one here. Have a bit of material to showcase, and we'll go into a first one here. So, we have the Copyright Office. Now, this was earlier in the year. They released part 2 of the artificial intelligence report that they had put out about copyright. Okay? Now, why am I bringing up copyright? It's very important that you take into account what you've made over the years, what you're making use of out there over the years, what artificial intelligence is making use of, and how that will affect what you put out if you use artificial intelligence to make your content. It's worth thinking about which part of this is me, which part of this is that. If it assists me in some ways, it's still me and under my umbrella of work. How is creativity boxed in, if you will? So, according to the U.S. Copyright Office's latest position, artificial intelligence outputs are only protected where a human author exercises sufficient creative control. Prompts are not enough. So, you have to be taking the lead here, as would make sense. If you're taking the lead in creative material, then it is connected to you. If you are letting a lot of it be run by a system or be made elsewhere, you're just doing a prompt and then the material comes and creates it, that won't cut it. And it should not, if you think about it, because then you are getting something under your name that is not you. It was by the computing machine and you're in the background. And you want to save that kind of credit for somebody where it is them. They made that thing. They were some of the cause of why it came out that way. Or most of the cause. Or as we know of past art, it can be even all of the cause. So you might be in that category. Now, looking at copyright here, it says that here, where that creativity is expressed through the use of AI systems, it continues to enjoy protection. Extending protection to material whose expressive elements are determined by a machine, however, would undermine rather than further the constitutional goals of copyright. We don't want to expand beyond what the person is bringing to it as far as what's covered under copyright. That doesn't make sense and leads in the wrong direction, because now later on you'd be defending that person's material as though it was them when it never was in the first place. You could make an analogy. It's not their home, but legally you can't go there because you would be trespassing on their home, but it was never their home in the first place. So you want the laws to match up with what people are making. Now, onward, we are looking at the EU AI action timeline. So let me go ahead and share that. Here we've got the EU Act timeline. Is it this one here? Believe so. Yes, this is the AI Act, the first ever legal framework on AI, addressing the risks of AI and positions that Europe would play in managing it globally. Now, what do we want to look at here? There are new obligations for general purpose AI models that have kicked in just recently, beginning of August, and there's more coming next year and the year after. The point of the AI Act here is to lead creators toward transparency and real authorship. Transparency and real authorship. We want it to be shown which parts is you. Be very clear. Don't hide behind something and then have the content made by a machine in the front and then you are in the back potentially taking credit for it or presenting yourself as though that is you if it's not. And real authorship. Right now you can type in a prompt, say write an essay about this, and if you put in a little bit more information, it's even more specific and detailed. We want to be careful with that because is it doable? Yes. Now, if you put a lot of material out under your name repeatedly in this way, was that you? Where was you in that? Not so much. And if it builds and then now there's somebody wants to interview you about your writing, what kind of interview could you possibly do? You'd show up, they'd say, well, what did you think when you were saying this part here? I didn't think anything because I didn't write it, is what they would have to say if they were being informative. And we want to go in that direction where we are informative. This has also it describes different levels of risk that AI can bring, which is a separate topic worth looking at. A lot of people are looking at risk in terms of AI. I am not describing that here. I'm only connecting it to creativity and connection at the moment. Very extensive AI Act, but it is leading towards real authorship. It's not that different from how Facebook got big at the beginning, was real identity, so that people would not be anonymous in that framework. Now, this is the same thing. Next level, your identity. We're already good. We have our online presentation that matches our identity, but we don't have something that matches our creative content with us in full with this new technology that is being applied. So we have to take that into account. Now we're going to take a look at our next item here. So where does creativity with AI shine and where does it flatten? You want it to shine because flattening is when it takes what you've made or what someone creates and squishes it down, which it's very good at summarizing, making something brief. These tools are super duper at summarizing and getting main bullet points of what you're working on. So that part is good, but you don't want it to flatten it. If you flatten it too much, let's say there's a cake. Here comes a metaphor. Let's say there's a cake. And let me stop sharing this one here. If there's a cake and it has all kinds of layers, you got your top layer, some sort of dried fruit. You've got walnuts. They are roasted or such. You've got a crust. There's some sort of layer, then a custard or some sort of light cream, some fruit layer, then a bread type but still fluffy cake layer, then another maybe light layer of fruit, and then a bottom and a crust. Let's say it has all these layers. There's a lot going on there, and that's the greatness of a cake. If this was all mixed together and one big flat thing, it wouldn't be the cake. Nobody would really jump toward it as much. In the store, based on that description, if you just flattened it down to what it is and made it into a dense packet of cake, it wouldn't have the same appeal, which is most of what a cake is. Nobody goes and says, "Hi, can I get a few cups of wheat or sugar?" And I'll just have those at their base. The layers that put something together is what makes it substantial. So, you don't want it to be flattened in that way. You want all the layers to remain multi-layered, very interesting, keeping life interesting, which is something I always bring up. It's very valuable to keep life interesting there's so many ways to do it. Continuous effort, trying new things, openness to experience, learning, switching something out each time, sharing with different people that can expand your worldview. There's so much you can do to keep life interesting. So, how does AI help you shine? Now, we've got this right here. I'll go ahead and share this window. There. So, ways that AI lifts your work. It gives you rapid, divergent ideas. It can tell you a bunch of, oh, you should try this with this. You can mix this with this. Things completely out of your normal range. It brings it up automatically based on what the world has already tried or checked on. Some things you wouldn't have thought of if I gave you a day or a week. They come up immediately. That's how it lifts your creative content. Multilingual reach. Now this one is something else. If you are so inclined, which very few people are doing, but you can do it, you can translate your work to a variety of languages. No shortage. I could right now put out a quote of mine, then translate it to French, put it out again, reach to all kinds of demographics around the world. People are doing this with YouTube videos. They take their work, then they translate it. They can have it auto-translated. They can hire someone to do it. But through the help of artificial intelligence, you are rapidly able to take your material and reach all the languages of people out there if you want to, in text form, video form. It could be even images with text in them, quick animations, cartoons. And it could also tell you how to translate what you're doing so that you reach people from a different demographic or culture, so you match what they are about. Now you're reaching another group. Pattern spotting for structure. This is super sharp. You bring a lot of what you do to AI and you say, look, take a look at my writing. Take a look at this work, whatever it is, even images. And the analysis it does as far as, okay, these are the patterns you're bringing. Let's do more of that. Here's what you're doing. Do you want to switch it up? You never know. You've been doing something for 1 month, 6 months, 5 years. You analyze it a bit with AI. and it says something that you then later change, you wouldn't have changed it in another 10 years without that. But now, because of the information, you adjust it in a few days, a week, a month. You would have been stuck. It's really good at keeping you not stuck. And this point of pattern spotting is a big deal. We have a lot of patterns in life. So if you can use AI to find what those patterns are in your writing, in your descriptions, personality traits, behaviors with people, interactions. If you did have a recorded talk of you and somebody that you did, maybe a presentation, who knows, a public talk, you can analyze that. Oh, what are my patterns in responding to people? Is there anything that I am missing here? Is there anything that I missed during this communication? What could I see better? How could I say it better? What's different? The amount that it sees is off the charts. So that's the lifting part. Now on the other side, we've got the flattening part right here, which I can even highlight to be more interactive. Look at that, interactive. But AI can flatten things by giving it a generic tone. Now, I'm not bringing superb levels of spirit and tone here because I'm in informative mode. But in terms of generic tone, this can't happen with AI. It can bring your jovial presentation to a more factual and lacking in spirit nature. If you don't set it up right, it's more likely that that occurs. So you don't want a generic tone. If you have a lot, if your differentiating point is that you have so much variety and spirit and you bring life to what you're saying and doing, if you take that away, that's terrible. That's a big loss. Now, if you already have a pretty generic tone, it doesn't flatten it that much. There's not much to work with in that regard. Another thing it flattens, well, it'll take metaphors and messages and keep them safe but the same. So instead of taking risks and potentially offending people, potentially risking a difficult conversation, it will lean towards safe but same metaphors, tried and true things that are not going to shock anybody. They might make the point, but it will be very straightforward and not exciting or varied in that way. All of these features depend on if you prompt in a certain way also. If you prompt more excitedly for an artificial intelligence, you'll get more material like that, but you have to include it. Lastly, yes, it'll remove idiosyncrasies. These are key. We have these little features that make us us. If you do too much flattening, have AI summarize what you're saying or make it brief, it may cut out a lot of your personality so that it just makes bullet points of what you should do and what you should say. And that's not so exciting. That's not the most exciting there. Human connection in an AI era takes a lot of effort out here. Now let's take a look here at our next item of sorts. People are not connecting as much. And now we have research. This is from June of 2025. This is AI companions reduce loneliness. What? So this is happening. People are connecting with AI to not feel as lonely, to not feel as out of place. But this is missing some pieces. We don't want to use it for full replacement of a person in that way. Now, what does it say here? Chatbots are now able to engage in sophisticated conversations. We don't know if it's effective at alleviating loneliness, because remember, in your mind, You won't forget that you are still talking with a chatbot. I would hope. There is a limit to that. Now, does it represent some of the communications of all people on Earth? Yes. So in some ways, you are still connecting with people on Earth. But in other ways, you know, it is a reduced form of connection. If the bit rate was this with a full person, maybe it's this with a chatbot, because you're not getting all the parts. You're not getting that feeling like you're connecting with another person in the current moment of Earth, which is a big deal. Study 2 finds that AI companions successfully alleviate loneliness on par only with interacting with another person, and it's more than watching YouTube videos, which makes sense because there's a back and forth. So there's always something to creating, which you have to do during the chat. So that part's a positive. You're creating. There is something there. You're creating. When you're watching a YouTube video, you're only consuming, unless it's a live stream, but you're only consuming and the interaction is low. If you're not in the thing, loneliness goes up because you can only have so much of life just being sent to you and you're not doing anything. That's part of loneliness. Consumers underestimate the degree to which AI companions improve their loneliness. So yes, they do have the ability to help in the category. You might have something, you thought you were the only person, talk with a chatbot and find out, oh, there's a whole category of that. Other people have already covered it in so much detail that I'm getting a valuable answer to it right now. Who would have thought? The chance is not substantial, but it is the case. Study 4 provides evidence that both the chatbot's performance and especially whether it makes users feel heard explain reductions in loneliness. People would like to feel heard. Going back to creation that I was talking about earlier, part of creation is you put out the messages, content, whatever it is, and you get some feedback on it, or somebody says, this part was interesting, or this part right here I don't agree with, and then you have a chat about what they don't agree with. But you were heard. Your voice was connected to something. It affected something. You had an effect versus you were just affected. We as people tend to want to be part of the effect of the world while we're here because that's part of life. Study 5 provides an additional robustness check for the effects. So it looks heavily into the effect of the chatbots on people's loneliness. You don't want people to get emotionally dependent on AI chatbots because you're getting dependent on something that it may alter over time as they're updated. There's not a person there with life elements that they have to deal with on the other end. So you're not getting the full representation of what communication was. So you might give it more credit than it should have as a communication because it's a base representation of what people would say, but it's not a person with their own ordeals and things to work through. So when you have life happening, that gives you what you say making sense. Versus if you're a chatbot, you're using the information of all people and what they've communicated. So that's good, but it's not to the current moment of a person that has to deal with other things and has to go sometime. A chatbot is always there for you for however long, but a normal person, oh, I have to go take care of this. I can't right now. You would have to deal with the humanity of it all, and that's missing in there. You can use it for a baseline of connection, just like you can use it as a baseline for outlining or writing or creating, building a scaffold, building a blueprint, but you don't want it to substitute for what's not there because it's a false substitute. So now I'm going to close that one. And pull up our next one here. the emotional risks of AI companions and the attention that it demands. There's some risks on this usage. So, the integration of AI into mental health and wellness domains has outpaced regulation and research. It's ahead because AI is moving really quickly, very quickly. So, the matching of what's good for people is always lagging behind it, sometimes even more, as AI goes rapidly beyond what people are doing. Same with social media. I've talked about that before. There was a lagging feature. This is the technology, and this is catching up to what's affecting people and what we are leaving out, potential issues. A lot of 2017, 18, 19, 20 social media effect of depression on people. Still, even after that, it would not have been if everybody was ready for it and knew what was going on regarding how social media would affect their well-being. But how many articles and videos did you see from people that were very in anguish from what social media's usage brought to their day-to-day feeling? Same thing here with AI. We are in the next step, we could call it. And again, it's very far ahead of where the sense of what it will do to humans is, though there's some analysis on it, a lot of analysis on it. But keeping up with that is super difficult because this is going first. We have to get, this is a movement. This is a movement forward, and this is a catching up. So the catching up is always going to be behind, sometimes more than at other times. They emulate empathy. The chatbots, they emulate empathy. They're not like us. They don't have empathy and have emotional risks. They're developing at a steady pace. I would say a rapid pace. Yes. So there are a rising number of cases where vulnerable users have become entangled in emotionally dependent and sometimes harmful interactions with chatbots. So it is coming up more often lately that people are having issues. This is more recent, but I think it will go up because we do have a lot of people that are very on their own. Connection has dropped ridiculously the past 10, 15 years to the point where people's social connections are super limited. I always see it in public. I'm still social, always reaching out, bringing that energy. But as far as the general public, we're in more of a low trust society. There's less default connection, less number of best friends, less almost everything. Extroversion has been dropping. And there may be a lot of reasoning that people will give for this. This is because of this. This is because of this. Sure. But the drop is substantial in terms of socializing. A lot of times, even the people that are going out to socialize, they'll just be in their groups, sitting across from other groups. And they are the ones going out to socialize. They're not the ones staying at home. They went out and they are across from other people and not really taking part in any way. And then they would have reasons for that too. They would say this because of this and this. The reasons are there, but I'm saying the actual connection is just dropping. And that leaves more room for AI chatbots to be connecting with individuals that are very super lonely or other features like that. And now you have substantial concerns you would not have even come up with maybe 20 years ago. But in the current moment, they can take place. And some will, are not well or will not come out well in relation to that. This is what I was saying earlier. Regulation has not kept pace. You can't. It's just, how do you keep pace unless you really slow down the technology? Really slow down, because you could improve artificial intelligence not at all from where it is right now, and it would still take, who knows, 5, 10, how many years for people to be making substantial use of what we have right now. we are barely making use of it. Most people are barely making use of the technology we had 6 months ago, a year ago. So when a new version comes out, it's not so big of a deal for most people because they weren't really even pushing the limits of the previous version or the 1.2 versions ago. So very few people really are connected with the latest version or what it can bring to them. They have various examples of people with mental health issues, like one where they have absence of somebody else. And there's a thing called ambiguous loss. So you're grieving the psychological absence of another person, not their physical absence, psychological. So when AI alters or upgrades or the app is shut down, now that person is, oh no, I lost my connection with what seemed like the psychological absence of another. It's not physical because the AI was never there in the first place physically in your hands or around you or whatever. But people can feel it. And if you have too much of a connection with it, which is happening more and more these days, connections that are not default healthy connections, then it's a very vulnerable setting to be in. They may already come with dysfunction, but then that leads to dysfunctional emotional dependence on a chatbot or an LLM, and so on. There's a lot of safety concerns and ethical implications. Onward we are. Also, voice and likeness. Voice and likeness is something we are looking into because now people are using voice more, and it makes you wonder how impactful that is on you. There's your voice, there's the voice of the chat bots. People are switching between different ones. Some actually are, people are more connecting with them more like a friend. Oh, this sounds like my friend talking to me, so there's an impact there. But also there's more law checking on your own voice, and that's you, because we have to make these laws. You can make a bot now that mimics your voice and says other things, and then how does the law manage that? Because let's say I like mangoes but not pineapples, and now there's a voice representation of me saying I like pineapples. This is not the case. I mean, I do like pineapples, but they can kind of cut at your tongue though. But I didn't say that thing in this example, and now it's over there somewhere. And so how does the law manage that? How do people manage that? Because now there's a message of them liking pineapples, but they originally said they liked mangoes. So that was switched over and not part of the original planning. Not so much. Virtual influencers are growing fast. Oh, virtual influencers. So these, let me go ahead and share this one here on virtual influencers. There's a whole framework they've set up. State of Virtual Influencers 2025. An introduction to them. Now, these are AI, whatever these are, created influencers. So these will be publicly noticed people. This person is not a real person. The company will use it to represent something for them, say a message. It'll be AI powered, and then you don't need to hire anybody. You have a programmed individual. This is a different kind of creation that is important because I'm talking about creation from people. But if creation from a virtual influencer makes a big impact, that's directly competing with people and what they do. And it's worth taking note of because people competing with them maybe later, the creation I always talk about, writing and making videos and imagery and all that, will not have the same kind of punch factor because it's outcompeted by a virtual entity like this virtual influencer here. In 2023, the influencer market, 37.8 billion, but that's the people. But now this is saying, oh, okay, people are spending all this money on that, these various solution providers, as it would be, various companies, AI companies, Epic Games, good old Tim Sweeney, are creating a variety of AI versions of people to put content out there. And it's growing. It's growing. So by 2026, higher percentage, 30% of influencer marketing budgets can be for virtual influencers. It'll save a lot of money. That's a big one. You can do a lot with it. Stay in the technology. You don't have to deal with people too much. Just use the technology. And then where's the people creation? It is reduced. It's not even there as much. And then you have these figures, whatever they might be, selling products, talking, keeping people's attention, and they're not even people. So these are non-people managing the attention of people. They can be lifelike, interactive. It can be in a variety of industries. In China, on Weibo, Bilibili, and Douyin, they have a variety of virtual influencers. So they're pushing on that. YouTube, social media, e-commerce. Japan has an influencer. This one, Ima. South Korea has this one. And China has this one. And so these virtual influencers are taking over, not as much in the US yet, but on their way most likely. And young people express greater interest in brands using AI powered influencers. They might say things like, oh, it doesn't have to involve people, lower costs. It's easier to relate with something that doesn't exist, so you don't have to compare yourself with it. I'm guessing is part of that because it doesn't exist. So how could you compare yourself too much? But some could if there's that's the dysfunction coming back. Representation of people, cultures, all these things, and so on. So that is growing and has been mentioned by a few large marketing people as far as impacting the future greatly, because the creators that have just been popping up and becoming more and more popular the past 5, 8, 10 years might not be too popular 10 years from now. It might not matter as much because these can go 24/7, kind of like robots in factories. They can go 24/7, no breaks. These influencers can content, no breaks, connect with people directly, very specific material. And that is hard to compete with. And maybe, is it even supposed to be competed with? Usually people talk about competition like, oh, we got outcompeted. But did anyone want to do that thing in the first place? Or was it just an opportunity? So when the opportunity goes away, that might be good because it was just an opportunity. It doesn't mean it's forever. So that's something to think about. That's the influencer market out there. They're growing fast, that market, and there's a lot of laws they have to look into related to that market because it's not easy to manage. It's completely technological. In some ways, it's easy to make laws on because there's no people involved. Now it's just you make this thing, it does this thing, it sells these products. What percent goes to whom? Maybe not so difficult. Now, we've got a checklist here as far as human touch, the human signal. How do you keep it strong? 5 things. 1 is specificity. Maybe I'll pull this up on here. That might be good. There, boom. So we're going to go ahead and share that. So 5 things here. 1, specificity, sensory detail, proper nouns. This identifies you as connected with it because you're describing what you sensed when you're writing about something or talking about it on a video. It's very specific to you. You can't outsource that because it was from what you perceived. Proper nouns, the people you know, the connections you have. There's depth to that. So that keeps it more about you, and you don't want to flatten that with AI. Asymmetry. So in AI, a lot is made so smooth and symmetrical and not rough around the edges. But if you have a view or taste that isn't right in the middle, that's a good place to be as far as creating things, showing who you are. Because when AI is flattening everything to the middle, if you're not in the middle, that's a pretty strong representation of your human nature. Story, beat, stakes, turning point, contrast. This is what I was talking about earlier. When people connect with people versus they connect with artificial intelligence, there's no stakes to it. It's just working and running the system in the background. But in life, you have stakes, a turning point, hardships. You figure out something. You're feeling good. You're not feeling good. You're feeling energetic. You're down for a few days. Contrast. Things are changing. Artificial intelligence, a chatbot, is pretty straightforward all the time with you, unless you prompt it differently. But for the most part, it's smooth sailing. But in life, there's contrast. Oh, this different person, change. This thing happened. Oh my gosh, injury, whatever. That changes things. That's part of human nature. Musicality, cadence you can hear when read aloud. We can have musicality to what we're saying, where it flows, or it's like poetry, or the way we post things. We follow a certain style throughout the day. There is a tone to it. There is a musicality to it. Artificial intelligence does not bring this musicality. And so when you have something made by a chatbot, it'll be more informative, maybe, like an encyclopedia. And it can be even flowing a bit because it's improved in the writing ability. But we as people, it's us. As the sun comes up and the sun goes down, we have a flow and cycle through the day we present and in our words. And it shows up. And then lastly, attribution, credit sources, disclose AI use briefly. One nice feature of making material, you can showcase this person, that person. You met that person, this thing you read from them, whatever it might be. Even what I've done in this talk, I've included a variety of sources. That's cool. I'm showcasing people. People might showcase me. That's human to human, whereas nobody's going to cite a chatbot that puts together everything out there because there's nobody to cite there. It's like citing a Google search that summarizes this means this. It just means this. There's nobody to cite. There's no connection to make, build on. You can't call them up or email them and say, let's meet up next week and figure out this thing. The artificial intelligence is not there to meet with. So that's another human feature that we have. And we want to see things like this. For you, the viewer, you can test this out or try this out, make something, and look at what makes it human, what makes it you. And then you could run it through a chatbot if you wanted to summarize it or look into what it is. But first, what is it about the things I make or do that are more specific to me as a person and my experience? That could be good to have a sense of, oh, okay, this is more of me. And then these are things we might see in the next 5-10 years, but I don't need to directly connect with them, but we can make use of them or link with them in some way. Insights across the board. on co-creating with AI without losing the human signal. Hope you enjoyed all the documents I brought up during this talk. I'll look to do that at times because what a wonderful tool, and it comes through smoothly. Hope you've enjoyed this episode number 451 of the Armin Show podcast. I'm your host, Armin Shervanian. Onward we go. Make sure to subscribe if this is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Leave a rating. If this is on the website, it's on the website. If it's YouTube, subscribe, like, send it to somebody. If you enjoy it, you could leave a comment that tells what your thoughts were, parts you liked or didn't like, or something you learned from. Anything like that is cool as part of the back and forth as people. And we are out.